The screen flickered. A 12-eyed alien in crimson robes stared out with the grace of a smug statue. You have entered sovereign imperial space. Under Article 9A of the Galactic Compliance Doctrine, you are required to submit for taxation, cultural evaluation, and behavioral auditing. Non-compliance will be interpreted as a declaration of war. Captain Talia Vega didn't blink. She leaned on one elbow, sipping cold coffee from a chipped ceramic mug that read "Diplomacy is just weaponized sarcasm." The mug had outlived 3 peace talks and 2 assassination attempts. It would probably survive this. "Good morning," she said into the bridge comms, voice flat. "This is Captain Vega of the UNV Magellan. We come in peace, unless that's tax too." Silence. Then the message repeated, slower this time. She could practically hear the alien's contempt dripping through every syllable. The translator AI dubbed him Lord Executor Xirax 6 Toll, head diplomat and, apparently, full-time buzzkill. Talia spun her chair to face her bridge crew. Lieutenant Singh raised an eyebrow. Ensign Rios snorted under her breath. Commander Alvarez rubbed his temples like a man regretting every life choice that led to this moment. "We just mapped the wormhole," Talia said, gesturing to the glowing rift displayed on the main holodeble. "We didn't know it dropped us in galactic bureaucracy hell." Rios chimed in. "They've got 50 capital ships pointed at us. All ceremonial looking. Probably built to impress, not fight. Still hurts when they fire," Alvarez muttered. Talia rose, smoothing her navy blue uniform. The embroidered Terran patch on her shoulder caught the light, a stylized earth encircled by stars and the phrase sapiens non oblitus, humanity never forgets. "Prepare the formal reply," she said. "Diplomatic, aggressive, or Earth style?" Singh asked, already opening the comm suite. Talia grinned. "Earth style. Make it funny, confusing, and vaguely insulting without violating any known galactic law." The transmission they sent played a looped montage of Earth's finest achievements, moon landings, Da Vinci, fried Twinkies, backed by an operatic remix of Rick Astley. The final frame, Talia, staring deadpan into the camera. "We're listening." "Try again, slower." 10 hours later, they were docking with Vurith 9, a station the size of the moon, orbiting a dying star like a gold-plated parasite. The Empire's seat of diplomacy floated among warships and temples like a cathedral fused with a tax office. The docking procedure alone required 12 different clearances, 1 blood sample, from the ship, and a declaration of the crew's laughter frequency. "They tax sound now?" Singh whispered as they stepped onto the reception bridge. "Only frequencies above 3 kHz, Vega replied. "Apparently, joy is a Class 3 disruption emotion." They were greeted by a column of armored officials in flowing robes. In the center stood Lord Xirax himself, tall, skeletal, his bone-white skin laced with glowing veins, eyes like twin galaxies under glass. When he spoke, it was like dry ice sliding across stone. "Your delay violates temporal obedience regulation. You will be fined." Talia nodded solemnly. "Sorry. Our espresso machine was malfunctioning. Delays were inevitable." Behind her, Alvarez winced. Xirax gestured with a claw. "Your world has violated Article 9A. Earth must now declare loyalty, accept restructuring, and begin tribute cycles." Talia clasped her hands behind her back. "And if we don't?" A pause. "Then the Empire will initiate compliance operations. Militarily, if necessary." Talia leaned slightly forward. "You're threatening a species whose first moon landing involved duct tape and coffee. You sure you want to poke that bear?" The room went still. "Diplomat Vega," Xirax said, voice low. "The Empire has endured for 6,000 cycles. We do not fear chaos. We eliminate it. And Earth's been dealing with chaos since fire. We surf it." He didn't reply. His aides scribbled notes furiously. In the Imperial Council chamber, half cathedral, half courtroom, Talia was presented with the official compliance scroll. It unrolled across 5 meters of polished obsidian floor. Your obligations, Xerox declared. Taxation, fealty, behavioral standardization, dress code conformity. Dress code? Vega interrupted. Sorry, is this a war or a middle school? Muffled gasps. One aide dropped a stylus. Xerox's jaw tightened. I am here, Talia continued, under orders to preserve diplomatic relations, not surrender to an interstellar HOA. You mock tradition. No, she said, I mock authoritarianism wrapped in gold foil. Xerox stared at her for a long moment, then finally turned and swept from the hall. His entourage followed in stiff silence. Commander Alvarez leaned close. That could have gone worse. Talia cracked her neck. Oh, it will. Later that night, aboard the Magellan, Talia reviewed the meeting footage while sipping lukewarm tea. Every gesture Xerox made had a protocol. Every sentence was a performance. They're a cult of control, she muttered. And we just hit them with improv. Singh entered with a data pad. Incoming message from Earth. Command says not to escalate. Maintain negotiations. Use soft power. Talia accepted the pad, scrolled, and laughed once. Dry and sharp. Soft power it is, she said. Let's confuse them until their own rules collapse. Closing scene. Xerox stood before a vaulted window on Vurith 9, watching the Terran ship drift quietly in orbit. In his palm, a data crystal replayed Vega's final words. This isn't a war. It's a misunderstanding wrapped in jokes you don't get. But if you make us explain it with missiles, that's on you. The Empire had faced conquerors, rebellions, plagues. But never something as destabilizing as laughter. And Xerox felt the first flicker of unease. The second negotiation session began at precisely 0600 Imperial time, though, to no one's surprise, the Empire's timekeeping system required human crew members to wear a conversion band just to avoid being chronologically offensive. Captain Talia Vega arrived 4 minutes early and was immediately fined for temporal presumption. Add it to the tab, she said, signing the citation with a flourish and a stick figure doodle of herself flipping the bird. The Imperial scribe recording the interaction twitched but said nothing. The council chamber was colder than before. Not in temperature, though that was a steady 12 degrees Celsius, but in tone. The air hung with that practiced stillness used by diplomats when they expected either a formal apology or a war declaration. Lord Xerox stood at the podium, looking like a skeleton draped in judgment. Behind him were 6 enforcers, 2 aides, and what Vega guessed was a tax auditor based on the gleaming metal abacus holstered at his hip. Captain Vega, Xerox intoned. Yesterday's mockery of protocol cannot be repeated. No argument here, she replied. I was up all night writing new material. Gasps again. Vega was starting to enjoy the sound. You now face 3 options, Xerox continued. 1. Full compliance. 2. A structured loyalty trial. Or 3. Economic sanctions and military enforcement. Tell me about this trial, she said, crossing her arms. You will be tested before the Imperial Tribunal to determine Earth's viability as a civilized contributor to the Galactic Order. Sounds like a talent show with paperwork. Xerox didn't blink. The audience will consist of senior delegates from 147 compliant species. Your cultural representative may make a defense. Interruption or comedy will be penalized. Vega smiled slowly. Excellent. I'll bring the best cultural expert humanity has to offer. 12 hours later, the tribunal assembled. Talia entered the chamber wearing a formal uniform with a few alterations. The coat was standard navy blue, but stitched in gold thread across the back were the words, non-compliant, non-apologetic, non-stop. The room, shaped like a hollowed-out spiral shell, filled with aliens in everything from gelatinous robes to floating sensor orbs. The Empire spared no expense on spectacle. Rows of bioluminescent glyphs scrolled legal codes in the air. A choir of scaled diplomats hummed the Imperial anthem in 12-part harmony. When Xerox asked for Earth's representative, Vega motioned. From behind her stepped Lieutenant Rios, wearing sunglasses and holding a tablet. "Our cultural ambassador is unavailable," Talia said. "But I've brought a replacement with expertise in planetary psychology, linguistic subversion, and attention disruption." She turned. "Say hello to Specialist Alan Cho, Earth's top stand-up comedian." Alan waved. "Hey folks. So, you ever try to file a parking permit with 17 species watching?" "No? Just me?" The translator struggled. Half the chamber froze in confusion. A third looked offended. But a smattering of younger diplomats stifled laughter. One squeaked out a chuckle and covered its mouth with a tentacle. Xerax's eye crests twitched. "This is highly irregular." "That's how we survived the Dark Ages," Vega said. Irregularity. For the next hour, Cho delivered a performance tailored to confound the Empire. He opened with observational humor about imperial bureaucracy. "I tried to buy a sandwich and had to submit a protein intention declaration." He shifted into absurdism. "We built a space elevator with chewing gum and optimism. Your ancestors conquered a moon and named it after a tax bracket." By the halfway point, laughter had rippled across at least 15 delegations. Xerax's aides whispered furiously behind him. A crystalline lifeform from Sector 8 was seen recording the set. Talia kept her expression neutral, but inside she was tracking the shift. Amusement was contagious. Laughter was political. Every chuckle undermined the gravity the Empire depended on. Then came the kicker. Cho paused and said, "You want Earth to bow? Fine. But we'll kneel once, for a selfie. And only if Xerax photobombs us." The translator paused. The silence stretched. Then a loud snort came from the aquatic delegation. A sea creature flopped off its hover chair from laughing. Someone clapped. One delegate shouted, "What is a selfie?" and the chamber dissolved into questions, noise, and uncontrollable cultural bleed. Xerax slammed his clawed staff. "This tribunal is dissolved. Earth's conduct is in violation of Code 77 Zeta. All proceedings are null." "Can't null something if it was never valid," Vega muttered. Back on the Magellan, the crew watched the broadcast numbers rise. Alien networks replayed the trial on loop. Hashtags in 36 languages translated roughly to hashtag Chonos and hashtag laughing not complying. In the war room, Vega debriefed with her senior officers. "Best case," she said, pointing to the holographic map, "we fracture their ideological hold. Humor spreads faster than force. We make their own citizens question why they fear us." Singh tapped a blinking alert. "We've intercepted encrypted comms. Looks like Xerax is escalating. He's requesting authorization to deploy Class 4 sanctions near Earth's colony routes." Rios frowned. "He's going to provoke us." Vega nodded. "That's his only play now. Make us fire first." Alvarez leaned forward. "And what's our play?" Vega smiled. "We bait the trap. But we choose the stage." Later that night, Vega sat alone on the observation deck. Earth hung in the distance, still faintly blue even from this far out. The door slid open. Cho entered, still holding the mic he refused to give back. "You sure this plan works?" he asked. "Laughter's more dangerous than bullets in the right hands," she said. Cho nodded. "Then I better keep writing." Outside, Imperial order wavered. Inside, humanity sharpened its most subversive weapon, culture. The war hadn't started. But the Empire was already losing control. The sirens weren't loud. On the Magellan, alarms were soft pulses of light and vibration, non-intrusive, efficient, quietly terrifying. "Unauthorized weapons activation detected," announced the ship's AI. Captain Talia Vega was already on the command deck, coffee in one hand, boots half-laced. Lieutenant Singh snapped to her side, eyes scanning the tactical display. Frigate Hauler 7, registered under Independent Earth Mining Operations, just suffered a weapons strike. Mid-transport. Coordinates match an Imperial patrol zone. Vega's face didn't move, but her grip tightened on the mug. Casualties? Minimal. 2 injured. Crew survived. Ship's adrift. Commander Alvarez stepped forward. Xerax just gave himself a reason. She didn't need to ask what he meant. The Empire had staged a textbook false flag incident. Hit a small, non-military ship, play the victim when Earth responded, then escalate under the banner of righteous order. "Get me Rios," Vega said. Rios came in still chewing a protein bar, eyes sharp. Media channels already flooded. Imperial broadcasts claim Hauler 7 was smuggling illicit memes. Xerax says Earth forces fired first. Vega looked at her officers. "We've been memeing the Empire for a week straight. Now they're calling that a biological weapon." "Technically, they're not wrong," Rios muttered. Singh raised a hand. "We're being pulled into the trap. They want us to retaliate." "We won't," Vega said. "We'll crash their narrative instead." She turned to Alvarez. "Prep a response unit. EMP torpedoes only. No fatalities. No fire. I want that Imperial patrol ship intact, powerless, and floating in front of every active comm channel within 100 light seconds. And the hauler? Tow it back. Quietly. We'll rescue our people. But the message we send is bigger." 10 minutes later, Magellan slid through folded space like a razor. The battlefield was small. 1 Earth frigate bleeding smoke. 1 sleek Imperial cutter spinning just slightly off axis, its shield shimmering from recent discharge. "Engage soft lock," Vega ordered. "Target propulsion and sensors. No hull breaches." The Magellan's dorsal launch bays opened with a low thrum. A silent burst of electromagnetic interference swept the region. The Imperial ship's lights flickered, then went dark. Then Vega did something no war manual would advise. She opened a public channel. "Attention, honored emissaries of galactic peace and obedience. This is Captain Talia Vega of the United Terran Accord. I apologize for interrupting your scheduled propaganda broadcast." On cue, a second stream overrode the local relay. Rios was patching in live footage of the hauler's rescue, the Imperial cutter floating helpless beside it. "Contrary to recent reports," Vega continued, "Earth vessels do not carry biological memes. They carry bad jokes, good snacks, and better data encryption than your tax software. Someone on the Empire's network tried to jam her. Rios cut them off by splicing in audio from Earth's classical music archive. Within seconds, Ride of the Valkyries echoed across the system, layered beneath Vega's voice. "We have not fired weapons designed to kill. We have fired knowledge. Laughter. Curiosity. And, unfortunately, sarcasm." The entire segment was tagged, mirrored, and already trending in half the galactic net. Lord Xerax stood in his private chamber on Virith 9, surrounded by silence and screens. He watched the feed in grim disbelief. First the trial. Then the memes. Now, this. A human ship had disarmed an Imperial patrol, broadcast it live, and mocked the Empire's entire strategic doctrine, without casualties. His claws tightened around the data crystal in his hand. "Sabotage," he muttered. "They destabilize with insolence." His aide Kalo entered quietly, datapad clutched in trembling hands. "Your Eminence, the Rim Worlds have issued a statement. They request immediate reassessment of compliance policies." "Traitors," Xerax hissed. "There's more." The Prithia delegation played one of Earth's broadcasts during their planetary parliament. "They..." Xerax spun. "Enough." He activated a command line and began inputting an emergency directive. "Summon the Justiciars. I want Vega silenced." Kalo hesitated. "Sir, targeting a diplomatic officer would violate 10 Imperial edicts." Xerax's voice dropped. "Then rewrite them." Aboard the Magellan, Talia sat in the briefing room, boots on the table, watching the chaos she'd ignited take shape. "The Empire's losing control of the narrative," Rios said, pacing. 3 species have already declared neutrality. One offered to trade us comedy licenses. Comedy licenses? Singh asked. Yep. We're being treated like cultural munitions manufacturers. Vega chuckled. They're starting to get it. Alvarez stepped in. Intercepted a justiciar dispatch. Xerax is calling in a kill order. Vega's smile faded. They're getting it too fast. Outside, in the void near Vurith 9, a shimmering vessel detached from hyperspace. Its hull bore no symbols. Its engines left no trace. Inside, cybernetic enforcers prep for a surgical strike. Target, Talia Vega. Status, Cultural Threat Class Delta. Vega didn't wait. She knew the Empire. They wouldn't argue anymore. They'd send a message the old-fashioned way. So she beat them to it. 12 hours later, she was in the council chamber again. This time, she walked in wearing armor. Not powered, not militarized, just stylized Terran ceremonial gear with historical emblems, Galileo's telescope, the DNA helix, and the words "Laugh loud, die free." Xerax was already there, looking like rage sculpted from ice. You've breached every tenet of diplomacy, he said. You breached a civilian vessel, she shot back. And now you've sent assassins. That's not diplomacy. That's cowardice. He moved to speak, but she raised a hand. I've brought evidence, she said. A hologram played, the intercepted justiciar order, decrypted, authenticated. Murmurs spread. Even Xerax's aides looked shaken. You used to rule by fear, Vega said. Now you're afraid of a woman with a microphone. A ripple of laughter swept the room, muted, cautious, but real. Xerax roared. You think this is victory? That your insolence will save you? No, she said. I think your own rules are eating you alive. She left the chamber without looking back. Behind her, a dozen delegates began talking over one another. Protocols cracked. Control bled away, one conversation at a time. Later that night, Vega sat alone in the Magellan's mess hall, staring out at the stars. They tried to audit obedience, she muttered. But they didn't expect refusal to go viral. Alan Cho walked in, holding a bottle. To cultural warfare, he said, handing her a glass. Vega raised it. To ungovernable punchlines. They drank as the Empire quietly, steadily, began to fall apart. The Empire was unraveling. Not in flames, not through war, just with silence, hesitation, and questions no one had dared to ask before. In the week following the tribunal, 37 member worlds filed for temporary cultural reassessment. 4 others declared open forums on sovereignty. The Empire's proud rhythm, protocol, order, reverence, had been interrupted by something it was never built to process: improvisation. Captain Talia Vega stood in the Magellan's war room, arms crossed, watching a live data feed scroll across the wall. Half the Empire's secondary bureaucratic branches just suspended non-essential documentation, Singh reported. Translation: they're too confused to write more rules. Vega didn't smile. She just exhaled slowly. Confusion's a start. Alvarez leaned over the map. Xerax still holds the central faction. He's losing allies, but he's consolidating his diehards. Last-ditch loyalists. Fanatics. Cornered dogs, Vega said. And he's not done swinging. She stepped forward, tapped a blinking alert. What's this? Rios pulled it up. It's strange. Not a fleet. Not a declaration. An invitation. From who? Rios paused. The Juni Council. 3rd largest cultural bloc in the Empire. They want a private summit, with you. Singh frowned. That sounds like a trap. Or the first real crack in the armor, Vega said. I'll take the meeting. The Juni homeworld was a jewel of gray skies and floating palaces, orbiting a lavender sun. Magellan didn't dock directly, protocol required a formal planetary descent via shuttle, flanked by honor guards riding atmospheric skiffs that looked like airborne gondolas. When Vega stepped out onto the landing pad, she was greeted not by soldiers, but by scholars, artists, and historians. Their leader, a silver-scaled matriarch named Velshire, greeted her with a bow. "Captain Vega," she said, voice melodic but firm, "you've disrupted 6 millennia of silence. We owe you an explanation." They led her through a hall lined with murals, depictions of war, peace, rebellion. She noticed something strange. In the oldest images, the figures laughed. Smiles, jokes, even theatrical pranks. But in the later pieces, everything was stone-faced. Sterile. Mechanical. "We weren't always like this," Velshire said, following her gaze. "Before the Empire unified us, we were vibrant, chaotic, beautiful. But structure replaced curiosity. Control replaced expression. Until even memory became sanitized." They entered a circular chamber lined with soft light and acoustic resonance panels. The council waited. Velshire faced them. "The Empire fears Earth because it remembers what it once was. Alive. Free. And it fears what Earth's presence could reawaken." Talia raised an eyebrow. "So why summon me?" "To offer a choice," Velshire said. "Publicly, we must remain aligned, for now. But we want to leak your story. Your trial. Your performance. Your culture. Unfiltered. Underground channels?" "No," Velshire said. "Wider. Across our educational nodes, youth hubs, art grids. We want to infect the next generation." Vega considered. "And when Xerax finds out?" Velshire's smile was faint. "He won't know who started it. Only that he can't stop it." 3 days later, across 5 star systems, snippets of Earth media began to appear, disguised as old drama files, quantum poetry, even false advertisements. Not all made sense to the viewers, but it didn't matter. The tone was raw. Uncontrolled. Human. Clips of Alan Cho's performance. Vega's speech. The footage of the Imperial patrol ship disabled without a single shot fired, blared alongside remixed Earth music, spliced with quotes like, "Obedience is not peace. Laughter is not rebellion. Freedom is not noise." Within days, the content had gone viral across channels the Empire had long stopped monitoring, believing them obsolete. In Vega's quarters, Cho watched a bootleg of his performance projected on a Junie wall, now dubbed in 24 dialects. "They're laughing at my timing," he said. "Not even the jokes. The rhythm of it. It's the cadence of disobedience," Vega said. Cho looked at her. "You think we've actually got a shot?" She didn't answer immediately. "Then, I think Xerax is bleeding control and doesn't know where to apply pressure." Back on Virith 9, Xerax did know one thing. His orders were no longer followed without hesitation. He watched 3 different governors delay his directives under the guise of operational clarity. His internal agents reported Junie activity, unprovable, maddeningly subtle. Everywhere he looked, the rot spread. And in the center of it stood a Terran captain with a smirk in a broadcast feed. So he prepared his final play. In the Imperial Assembly Hall, Xerax called an emergency gathering. Delegates from across the Empire attended, even those skeptical of him, curious what he would say. He stood beneath the great sigil of the Empire and began. "We have permitted chaos to wear a diplomatic face. We allowed it to speak, to mock, to unravel. And now it metastasizes." He pointed a long claw at the hovering feed screen. Talia's face, mid-sentence, frozen. "This is not a diplomat. This is a virus. And Earth is a disease." He declared immediate sanctions. Any world caught relaying Earth origin data would face economic isolation, military suspension, and diplomatic blacklisting. It sounded strong. Final. Commanding. But after the speech, something strange happened. Delegates didn't applaud. Some left silently. Others exchanged glances. Two whispered jokes. One delegate from the Prithia Confederacy was seen stifling a smile. The Empire had spoken. But its voice no longer echoed. Back on Magellan, Vega got the report. Blacklists, sanctions, military posturing, Singh read. Same old script. We expected that, Vega said. We're not fighting his words. We're spreading ours. She paused, tapped the command console. Patch me to open Galactic comms. Rios hesitated. All frequencies? All. A moment later, Vega stood before a camera, not in uniform, but in a simple flight jacket, sleeves rolled, eyes steady. To the people of the Empire, she said. Not the rulers. Not the enforcers. You. She let the silence hold for a beat. You don't need to like humans. You don't need to laugh at our jokes. But you should know this, we aren't asking for permission to be ourselves. And we aren't afraid to be strange, loud, or inconvenient. Because freedom doesn't ask for an application form. She leaned closer to the lens. And once you remember how it feels to laugh without checking the rules, ask yourself if you ever want to forget again.